Right now, somewhere in your pocket or your bag, there's a piece of paper or a rectangle of plastic, and your entire life depends on it. Your food, your shelter, your future. All of it tied to something that, if you think about it for too long, is completely made up. Money has no flavor, no warmth, no nutritional value. It can't protect you from the rain or keep you alive in the cold. It is, at its core, just an idea. A story that billions of people agreed to believe at the same time. So how did we get here? How did our ancestors go from hunting their own food to swiping a card for it? The answer is stranger than you think, and it changes everything you thought you knew about value, trust, and what it means to be human. Let's go back. Way back. For most of human prehistory, money didn't exist. Not because people were primitive, but because they didn't need it. In small hunter-gatherer groups, everyone knew everyone. If you killed a deer, you shared it, not out of charity, out of insurance. Because next week, you might be the one who came home empty-handed. The group was the safety net. Generosity was the currency. Anthropologists call this a gift economy. You give, you receive, you owe, but nothing is ever written down. It runs entirely on memory, reputation, and social pressure. And for tens of thousands of years, it worked. The problem started when groups got bigger. Once you're trading with strangers, people outside your tribe, trust becomes complicated. You can't rely on reputation when you don't know someone's name. You need something else, something neutral, something both sides agree has value. The first something was whatever was hardest to fake and easiest to carry. In different parts of the world, at different times, that meant different things. Cowrie shells in China and Africa, obsidian blades in Mesoamerica, dried fish in Iceland, blocks of salt along the ancient trade routes of Ethiopia. The word salary comes from the Latin salarium, payment in salt. Roman soldiers were literally paid in salt, but the most important early currency wasn't any of those things. It was grain. Around 3000 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, the first large-scale civilization was figuring out how to feed thousands of people. Farmers brought grain to central temples for storage. The temple gave them clay tokens in return. Those tokens could be traded, saved, or used to claim grain later. It was the first bank, the first receipt, the first money. And it was invented not by merchants or kings, but by accountants. Then came metal. Somewhere around 600 BCE, in a small kingdom called Lydia, in what is now Western Turkey, someone had an idea that would change the world. They took electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, stamped a lion's head into it, and declared it official currency. The first coin. It sounds simple, but what that stamp did was revolutionary. It meant the king was guaranteeing the weight and purity of the metal. You didn't have to weigh it or test it. You just had to trust the lion, you had to trust the state. Within a century, the idea had spread to Greece, Persia, and India. Coins made trade faster, cheaper, and possible between total strangers. For the first time in history, a farmer in Athens could sell grain to a merchant in Corinth without ever having met him before. Money had made trust portable, but coins had a problem. They were heavy. Carrying enough gold to buy a ship or fund an army meant carrying enormous weight. So around the 7th century CE, China invented something that would take another 1,000 years for the rest of the world to accept: paper money. The idea was simple. Deposit your coins with a trusted merchant, and he gives you a piece of paper promising to pay whoever holds it. You trade the paper instead of the metal. The metal sits in a vault somewhere. The paper is just a promise. When Marco Polo encountered paper money in China in the 13th century, he thought it was witchcraft. He wrote about it in complete disbelief, that the emperor could hand someone a piece of paper and people would give him real goods in return. All the peoples and populations who are subject to his rule, he wrote, accept these papers as if they were pure gold. Europe wouldn't catch up for another 400 years. By the 17th century, goldsmiths in England were doing something interesting. People deposited their gold with them for safekeeping. The goldsmiths issued paper receipts, and then they noticed something. Most people never came to collect their gold at the same time. So they started issuing more receipts than they had gold, lending out money that didn't physically exist, and charging interest on it. This was the birth of modern banking, and the moment money became truly abstract. Not a thing you hold, a number, a promise, a belief. Today, about 92% of all money in the world exists only as digital entries in a computer. There is no physical version of it. No vault, no gold, no paper, just numbers on a screen that billions of people agree to treat as real. Which brings us back to where we started. That piece of paper in your pocket, that rectangle of plastic, it has value for one reason only, because enough people believe it does. Money is, at its deepest level, a technology of trust. It lets strangers cooperate at a scale that would otherwise be impossible. It's why a farmer in Iowa and a factory worker in Vietnam can be part of the same economic system without ever speaking a word. Our ancestors traded shells and salt and promises around campfires. They stamped lions into metal to make trust portable. They wrote numbers on clay tablets so that debt could outlive memory. Every step of the way, they were solving the same problem. How do you get a stranger to trust you? And the answer they landed on, over thousands of years, is the same answer we're still using today. You find something you both believe in. You agree it has value. And you hope everyone else keeps believing the same thing. The entire global economy runs on hope. It always has. We just stopped noticing.